Hello everyone and welcome back to Driver Career for the Italian Grand Prix in season 2022. Hopefully we should be in for a good one. This is a round I have been pinpointing all season long that we should focus on and really try and maximize a good result here, because I think this is a circuit both I personally can do quite well at, as well as taking advantage of the tools we have at this circuit. The DRS here is insane, and hopefully we can use that to our advantage. But as always, we get things started with the Pirelli Hot Lap Challenge, going with the average speed zone this time. And as you just saw, we completely failed Parabolica on the first attempt. It's just the one corner here in the speed zone challenge, so it shouldn't be too difficult. We were a little bit deep on that occasion as well, but we might just have it this time as we come towards the line. We need to maintain an average speed of 178 kilometers per hour, and we do that on the second attempt. We actually overachieve by a small chunk with 180.52 kilometers an hour, so yeah, a relatively easy one compared to last time out at Zandvoort. But we have one more crack at it anyway, because we are still, even though we've already gotten the gold reward, we still have to do the third attempt, so we might as well see if we can improve on our previous one, getting a little bit closer to something resembling an early apex there through Parabolica, and then running it out nice and wide to the exit and to the line. Now I think this will be a much better run, and yeah, it looks like we maybe just ticked over to 183 there at the end, so yeah, much better run on our final attempt. But either way, that is gold, and yeah, we get the acclaim reward there. 182.66 in the end, not quite the 183 I may have been talking about, but regardless, we move on to the end of practice and we get into the real F1 stuff now. And as always, upgrade discounts are being applied after practice, and all the usual stuff. Practice here went pretty well. The pace of the car, I think, is pretty good. We didn't get all the upgrades we wanted on the car for this round, so we're missing out. Maybe, I mean, it's hard to say what one upgrade is worth, but I mean, we could be a few tenths better off. But I genuinely think we as a team, both cars, can compete for points here. I think highlighting this round might just work in terms of getting us both into points paying positions by the end of the race. But the aero upgrade that I just indicated that it was that we did not get on the car for this round that we should have, we do need to fix up, so we get that done, and that'll be on the car soon enough. But other than that, we also have another upgrade that failed in the chassis department, which not quite as important here, but still would be nice to get on the car. We fixed that one up too, so as always, it kind of just feels like we are chasing our tails this season. But regardless, we're still doing the best we can, and hopefully we should be in for a good one, not only here but also over the next couple of rounds as those upgrades come in and we continue to improve the car. Hopefully we can get both cars in the points on a more regular basis, because McLaren are not getting any slower. We've been pretty much blow for blow with McLaren recently. Currently they are 1 point ahead of us in the team's championship, and we are going to do everything we can to reverse that situation here, but it's going to be tough. McLaren, they've got two very good drivers in Ricciardo and Norris, and their car has been improving as of late. Alpine dropping back a little bit, relatively speaking, as we and McLaren improve into this round. Red Bull and Mercedes improving, but Ferrari dropping into third on the R&D chart of their home race, so that's a real shame for them. Could make things very difficult, but overall, if you look at the field spread from the start of the season to now, it has definitely closed up first to last, so that is great to see as well. But anyway, that is enough waffle. Let us get straight into qualifying now for the Italian Grand Prix and see where we will be kicking this one off on the grid. So here we go then into Q1, and it is a wet session. This was not indicated at all earlier in the weekend. I mean, it could have been on the weather forecast, but in terms of actual wet running in practice, there was none. So yeah, we are diving into the deep end here, and hopefully we can string together a good enough lap to get us through. I've never been quite as strong in the wet conditions, but hopefully we should be able to do the job here. And as we complete consecutive laps in Q1, we are finding more time on the second lap as we just get into a bit of a better rhythm.
Okay, we've only got 1 lap of fuel remaining.
So hopefully this will be good enough to get us through into Q2. We come across the line, and we are currently both in the top 10. Yuki Tsunoda in P9. We are up a little bit higher inside the top 5. So good start to qualifying. I actually went out again at the end of the session just in case conditions improved, but unfortunately I didn't actually get around to the line in time to set another lap. But thankfully for us, we are through into Q2 in P10. So we dropped down a few places, but through safely enough. Hopefully Yuki Tsunoda got through. He's not there, so I have my concerns that he may have been caught out by the conditions. Yes, he did get through in P15. He scrapes through into Q2 rather. Q3, let's not get too excited yet. Lance Stroll gets knocked out, unfortunately, for the Canadian, along with Fernando Alonso in the Alpine. So big shock there. Nicholas Latifi also gets knocked out along with Zhou Guanyu and Alexander Albon. Sebastian Vettel doing a nice job in the other Aston Martin, those to get through in P13. So yeah, that is not too bad. Just 1 place behind Lewis Hamilton. So in that improving Mercedes, yeah, he didn't have such a good run. Anyway, we continue on into Q2. We've got a bit of a slipstream from Valtteri Bottas on our first flying lap in Q2, so that's going to help us along a little bit, but unfortunately we did also run a bit deep into the Variante del Rettifilo, so that didn't help our cause there. Either way, a bit wayward through the Della Roggia chicane as well, but hopefully we should have the pace despite these few little mistakes creeping in. We might have to do another lap. We don't have a lot of time left in the session. We've left our run relatively late as we come through the chicane now, the Ascari chicane, and getting through there okay. That's probably my weakest part of the circuit as we now come through Parabolica. We're currently down in last position in the session with no time next to our name. What is this lap going to do for us? We complete the lap and it is going to be P10. We just scraped through into the next session. Wowee, that was tight. Yuki gets through as well. Yes, that is awesome news. Both of our cars into Q3. I'll need to run the numbers, but that is almost certainly the first time this season, or at least the first time in quite a while. But that is awesome. That shows that these improvements are finally starting to pay off and we do have some genuine pace. No Alpines in the top 10, with Esteban Ocon getting knocked out in this session. Mick Schumacher out-qualified by Sebastian Vettel, the two Germans, 12th and 13th. Valtteri Bottas P14 ahead of Kevin Magnussen, rounding out the 5, knocked out in Q2. Q3 then, and we chuck it into turn 1 and 2, just using all the available curb on the exit there, but got away with it. Into the Della Roggia chicane now, and getting through there cleanly enough. Not particularly aggressive, but this is essentially our banker lap in Q3, so we've got plenty of rubber. We probably will still even have a fresh set of soft tyres for the race itself, thanks to Q1 being on the intermediates. Into the Ascari chicane now, a little bit deep and wayward through there, but clean enough, and that shouldn't have cost us too much time as we head towards Parabolica. And there's a surprising amount of time in Parabolica So we chuck it in there pretty deep, run it out nice and wide. We were maybe slightly narrow on the line, but overall that was a pretty good run through there. And as we cross the line, we eventually dropped down into P6, Yuki Tsunoda P9, but a decent qualifying session so far. We go again to try and improve, but as we run towards Parabolica on our second fly, we're not actually going any faster. But as we chuck it in, we just managed to carry the speed much better through there. On this occasion, we gain a chunk of time, and that might just be enough to push us a little bit further up the grid. We were down in 8th, we move up to 7th. A very handy qualifying session here at Monza. I'm very happy with that.
And with qualifying complete, let's review our top 3 today. Verstappen, Sainz, and George Russell. Goodbye for now then, but really we're just getting started. Make sure to join us again for Lights Out tomorrow.
Well, sandwiches are plenty in the top 10. We've got the Mercedes in a Ferrari sandwich and the Ferraris in a Red Bull sandwich. And we've also got the McLarens in an AlphaTauri sandwich. So, yeah, that is kind of crazy the way that's worked out. 3 manufacturers in the top 3, but only 5 in the top 10. So that win between the Mercedes, Ferraris and Red Bulls will be hotly contested. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to one of only 2 countries that has held a race every year since the very first Formula One World Championship in 1950. It is, of course, Italy, one of the great racing nations, and it's time to get underway for the Italian Grand Prix. With top speeds up to 215 and an average lap speed of around 155 miles per hour, Monza's reputation as one of the fastest circuits in the sport is well earned. We have 11 corners on this 3.6-mile track, with the best overtaking chance coming into the heavy braking zone of the Turn 1 chicane. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. An immense lap from Carlos Sainz yesterday puts him in pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Perez, the scientist, Yuki Tsunoda and Verstappen, Bottas, Leclerc, Stroll and Fernando Alonso. Russell, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Norris, Daniel Ricciardo and Albon. Vettel, they've taken a grid penalty. Latifi, Mick Schumacher and Kevin Magnussen. Joe and Esteban Ocon lines up at the back of the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box. Ant, it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the run down into Turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
This is the team's home race. We're all relying on you to impress today.
Thank you, Mark. Alrighty. We have a lot to get through on this grid sequence. A little bit of rain on the radar, we'll get to that shortly, but for now, let's talk about the grid penalties. Both McLarens, both Haas's, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Sebastian Vettel, Nicolas Latifi, who actually moved forward despite taking a penalty, Zhou Guanyu and Esteban Ocon all taking grid penalties for this race. 11 cars, more than half the field. Now, we are going to be starting on the soft compound tyres because rain will be coming pretty quickly once we get this race underway. Doesn't seem like a popular choice. Almost everyone's starting on the mediums with the exception of myself, along with Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas. So, yeah, I think the 3 of us will be an advantage at the start of the race, but we'll see how it all plays out. Carlos Sainz on pole position for Ferrari's home race, gifted after Verstappen's grid penalty. 5 red lights are on and it's lights out after a very short hold on the grid, and we were not ready for that. It's a bad start. Verstappen boxed in behind us, and Yuki Tsunoda gets around the outside as we head towards Turn 1. We're just trying to cover off Verstappen into Turn 1. A little bit late as we ease off the brakes. Stroll around the outside. Where did he come from? as we get the power down on the exit, and we do hold off Lance Stroll. But that was a huge start for the Canadian, and he has put himself well in contention in this race.
No tyre concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving.
He has moved up into P6 after getting knocked out in Q1. A lot of that was through grid penalties, but there was a lot of places made off the grid as well for Lance Stroll. So this could be a good race for Aston Martin if he can hold on to it, but we'll see how the race pace goes. That car is not particularly quick. Back on board with myself though, as we thinking about how to play the rest of this race from here. I'm hoping Stroll can just back up the pack behind me a little bit, because that will definitely help out myself and Yuki Tsunoda if he can hold up the queue, at least while the DRS is not enabled. And if he can stay there until it rains, that would be huge. But who knows? It's anyone's guess exactly when that rain starts falling. But I also need to consider if I want to overtake Yuki Tsunoda or if I just want to sit behind and play rear gunner and try and maximize the result for both of us today, because I think if I sit in Tsunoda's DRS while it's dry at least, it's going to be pretty difficult to make an overtake on the pair of us. So yeah, I really do have to think carefully about how I play this race, because ultimately we are in an extremely tight teams championship fight with McLaren, and it's going to be difficult.
5 minutes until rainfall expected, 5 minutes until rain. Okay, dry seem like the best tyre for now.
And a race like this, where Tsunoda is running in the points, is an opportunity we simply cannot miss. We need to capitalize on this as well as we possibly can. So we'll see how it goes. But for now, I'm pretty content just sitting behind Yuki Tsunoda and letting him run his own pace. We're not going to catch anyone in front anyway. No, none of those cars are in our race. So it's not like we're in a huge rush. But anyway, a replay at the start shows that Carlos Sainz was able to get away from the line cleanly. He was under a lot of pressure towards turn 1. But he was able to hold off Lewis Hamilton. A little bit of side-by-side racing, but Hamilton ultimately had to give that up very tight on the inside line there. Here we go on board with one of the Alpines of Fernando Alonso, who was knocked out in Q1, helped up the order though by some grid penalties. And Alonso all over the place into turn 1, very indecisive, and just made a bit of contact with the car in front. So that's a bit of a shame for Fernando Alonso. That could be a little bit of front wing damage. But either way, not an ideal start to the race. With the other Alpine now of Esteban Ocon, who started dead last on the grid. Decent traction off the line, but had to lift with nowhere to go. And then towards turn 1, what's happening here? The sees part briefly as they go 3 wide in front. He's tucked in behind one of the Williams cars there now, as we just trundle so slowly through the first corner. But Esteban Ocon does a good job through there, places his car in all the right places, and is now tucked in behind Sebastian Vettel. So yeah, it's been a good start for Esteban Ocon, and immediately making some amends for the poor grid position. Little tap with Sebastian Vettel there, so that might again be a bit of front wing damage. And as we see at the end of the first lap, one of the Alpines does come into the pits. Both of them getting taps on the front wing throughout the first lap, but it's Ocon who made a pretty good start despite starting in last place. But yeah, he comes into the pits for a new front wing, so shame for Esteban Ocon. He's got to do all that work again, now with essentially a pit lane disadvantage versus everyone else. But the first stint is ticked off regardless. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen makes his first move on Lance Stroll, the Canadian, trying to hold on as best he can. And to be fair, he's just held off Max Verstappen there, so not a bad effort by Lance Stroll. But ultimately, that Red Bull is just so much faster. He blazes on through in a straight line, and there's absolutely nothing Stroll could have done about that. And ultimately, Verstappen again is not in Stroll's race, so he doesn't need to fight that one too hard. But yeah, it was good to see Stroll getting feisty there and holding up Verstappen for as long as he reasonably could. We get the move done on Yuki Tsunoda. We go a bit deep into turn 1, sets us up awkwardly for turn 2, but we should be okay to hold on to that. Meanwhile, behind, a little bit more action going on as Fernando Alonso rounds up Valtteri Bottas there. And looks like he's been able to get that move done, but Bottas might not be finished yet, as they are going to keep this fight going side by side, and they're going to make it 3 wide as Lando Norris looks to the outside. Alonso just ahead of the moment, but into turn 1 they go. Late on the brakes goes Valtteri Bottas down the inside, and they are going to be rubbing side pods and tyres as they make their way through turns 1 and 2, and it looks like Alonso and Bottas have come out on top. Norris couldn't keep the fight going on the inside of turn 2, but these two are not giving up yet, and side by side they continue to go. 2 very experienced drivers, and it's going to be Alonso who comes out on top with plenty more experience than Valtteri Bottas, who has no small amount himself, as we now go on board with Valtteri Bottas to see his perspective of the incident. And there was a little bit of contact there, and that actually damaged the front wing for Valtteri Bottas. A secondary hit there on the exit, but the front wing end plate on the left hand side is off at this point for Valtteri Bottas, and despite that he charges ahead through the mid corner as the side draft battle continues through the Curva Grande, but Alonso with the inside line gets the job done. Here's the onboard with Lando Norris through that sequence. He had a great run, but it could only choose the outside here, and while that works fine for turn 1, it really doesn't work for turn 2. He had to take a bit of curb, still barged into the side of Alonso slightly. There's just not enough room for 3 cars there. Norris is lucky that he didn't pick up any front wing damage through that sequence. But yeah, unfortunately for Valtteri Bottas, the Finn had to bring the Alfa Romeo into pit lane and yeah, get a new schnozer on the car. So
Check your MFD for a new strategy option.
yeah, that was the end of that for Valtteri Bottas. Meanwhile, we are being called into the pits because the rain is now falling. Only 6 laps
Got that confirmed.
into this race, and yeah, wow.
Okay, 2 stops left now, 2 stops. Okay, your pit window opens next lap.
With such a short first stint, softs were definitely the way to go, so everyone on the mediums really kind of wasted a set.
No need to worry about the tyre condition for now, everything's looking good.
Of those tyres, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out later in the race, but for now,
We're going to box this lap and push hard on the in-lap.
we were sent around for one more lap. The call was not
Yuki is in the pits. Yuki in the pit lane now.
for that lap, but I don't think this is right. Yuki's in the pit lane, almost everyone else is in pit lane, and there's no grip out here. We have been hung out to dry, or to get very wet as the case may be, by the pit crew and the engineers back in the pit lane. Yuki Tsunoda has been given priority here, and yeah, we are left to struggle on slick tyres in very wet conditions. There was no room to double stack. It was only just over 2 seconds between us, so it would have been awkward in pit lane had we both come in, as Verstappen is closing in, 4-wheel drifting it through the second Lesmo, and still managing to make some pace work for himself. But we are really struggling at the moment, and Verstappen is all over us, just waiting for a mistake, and he might get one here as we run wide, and a bit of a slide there. We managed to hold off Verstappen, but that wasn't really through any attempt to cover the line. We are just trying to keep this damn thing on the road as Russell gets through on Verstappen as he was wayward.
Okay, it's borderline, mate, but if I were you, I'd come in and change tyres. I'm just not sure we're on the right ones for these conditions anymore.
You make it sound like it was my decision to stay out, mate. Oh, that's a big
Okay,
slide!
formed
And
an
we
incident
grazed the
which has
barrier.
resulted in lots of loose debris on the track. A safety car is being deployed.
Loose debris on the track, and that may be disastrous for us. No, it's Sebastian Vettel who has caused the safety car. He's spun at the exit of the Ascari chicane and is now almost backed into traffic there. I think that was Daniel Ricciardo making his way through, but Sebastian Vettel quickly gets it back out the way into the pits for Max Verstappen. A front wing change for him as well as we come in to the pits. And
Perfect job from you and the crew there, mate. We're delighted with that.
somehow, despite that graze with the barrier, we have no damage. That is a miracle.
All right, we'll be doing one more stop today. 1 stop left in this strategy.
That might just be the luckiest escape we've had for a very long time. Probably for all this season. But now things are only going to get harder.
Okay, no issues with tyre wear for now. Keep taking care of them.
Safety car definitely covered our pit stop a little bit and certainly reduced the damage, but we have been undercut by a whole bunch of
you're in
cars.
Ninth position.
We're dropped to 9th overall now, so yeah, that's a shame. Here's the replay of what happened with Sebastian Vettel. He was already very slow there and just nothing he could do. The rear end stepped out, and that was just always going to be a one-way trip to the barrier from there. So that's a real shame for Sebastian Vettel. He performs a many-point turn before he gets going again, but eventually he does so. But is travelling very, very slowly, is Sebastian Vettel, so clearly there's something amiss with that car. In fact, there's that smoke coming out of it. It's hard to pick it out of the water spray, but I think there might be a more terminal issue with that Aston Martin. Just looked like there was a bit of a puff of smoke, and he pulls over. And regardless of what the issue is, Vettel is out. He's the onboard to see exactly how things happened from this angle. And yeah, there was nothing he could have done. Just the inside curb maybe upset the car a little bit. It's hard to say, but either way, that was a very tough situation there for Vettel. And as soon as that slide started, good reactions from Sergio Perez not to run into the back of him there. But yeah, as soon as that slide started, there was nothing Vettel could have done to save that. But anyway, we are ready to go racing once again, as we are already just having a little look around. Fernando Alonso, we put the power down as Carlos Sainz leads us back to green flag racing here, and immediately the wall of spray begins behind the race leader. We're going to be a little bit cautious, but George Russell isn't. Down the inside goes George Russell into turn 1. He almost runs into Fernando Alonso, but gets it stopped in time. Alonso did a great job to see him there, but George Russell's got the move done on us and has made that work. So that's a great restart for George Russell, and we are struggling. These tyres not quite up to temperature, and Curva Grande is absolutely treacherous, but we're just going to try and hold on as best we can. But yeah, this is going to be a very, very tricky phase of the race. This is not necessarily the easiest circuit in the wet, so yeah, we'll see how this goes. But yeah, this I fear could be a difficult stage for us, but we'll see. If we can settle into a rhythm, we might just be okay. We go on board with Max Verstappen, who's probably getting sick of following us at this point. Oh, big moment there for Max Verstappen. That is a monster save, and that is one of the McLarens getting through on Max Verstappen there. So yeah, that's the second time that corner Verstappen has lost control. But Lance Stroll is having a bit of a struggle in these conditions, and starts to
okay, you're doing well out there. Keep it up. We're looking at about 10 more minutes of rain. 10 minutes.
Starts to lose places. I think that was Ricciardo making the move. Verstappen back ahead of Lando Norris for the time being, and Verstappen
okay, focus. We need to stay on form.
Gets the move done on us as well. So yeah, we're continuing to struggle. We're going to send it back down the inside though of Max Verstappen and try and hold on to this for as long as we can. But yeah, Max Verstappen seems to have some pretty good pace in these conditions, but I really just want a car between myself and Norris, even if that car is Max Verstappen.
The weather's certainly eased off for the time being, but we've still got a lot of standing water out there. We're happy for you to stay out on the inters for now.
I want that buffer there, at least while it's wet, so I'm not in a direct fight with Lando. But as we continue on, Verstappen tries to make the move on us again. He gets fully ahead, but we can go so much later on the brakes into turn 1. The confidence there is very high, as George Russell and Lance Stroll are scrapping it out, and Russell getting the better of Lance Stroll there. And I think we need to get this move done on Stroll as well as soon as we can. We go for the move around the outside of the Parabolica there, and it's going to have to be now a straight line drag race towards turn 1, side by side with Lance Stroll, and we should be able to get this one done into turn 1, but we're going to have to go brave on the brakes around the outside. Stroll tucks in. He's not going to make an argument out of this, and we'll take that position. So Thank you, Lance. And we'll carry on. Hopefully Stroll can hold off Verstappen for a little bit longer. And he's going to do his best, actually, because he's sent Verstappen around the long way into Turn 1. And Verstappen's going to struggle on the inside apex of Turn 2, and Stroll holds on again. So he's defending well from Max Verstappen, as side by side, Yuki Tsunoda is doing his best to hold off Fernando Alonso at the moment, and is heading a queue at the moment. But eventually, Lance Stroll is going to lose out to Max Verstappen, who does get down the inside of Turn 1 eventually, and not much Stroll can do from that position. But he's done us a huge favour by just creating that little bit of an air gap that we now have to Max Verstappen. But next up, we've got George Russell up the road, as Yuki Tsunoda is fighting away with Fernando Alonso. Looks like Alonso has finally got past Tsunoda there, but that's not too bad. Not ideal, but we're not in a direct championship fight with Alpine at the moment, so I think we're going to be okay there, and Ocon's P-nowhere anyway. But the problem for us is that Ricciardo is a fair way up the road, and he's going to score very good points in this race if this trajectory continues. So we need to maximise everything we can, and we have a chance here to make the move on George Russell down the inside as he was held up by Tsunoda through the first chicane, and that has allowed us to take that opportunity and make the move on George Russell and move ourselves up in behind Yuki Tsunoda and into 8th position. So that is massive for us. That is exactly what we need. If we can hold on to this position.
No tyre concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving.
And no damage from that manoeuvre.
Okay, the rain should be ending shortly. Be ready for the grip to come back, but don't overheat the tyres. Inters seem to be the fastest tyre for now.
And the rain will be ending shortly, which is music to my ears. But yeah, with Russell now behind us, hopefully we can settle into a rhythm. Looks like the pace is actually pretty good for myself and Yuki. We are just keeping up well enough so far. Max Verstappen has overtaken Russell in the meantime, so yeah, looks like the Dutchman is not going to let us go so easily, but we're going to do everything we can to keep him away from Yuki and try and maintain this double points finish for as long as we can. And hopefully if we can finish ahead of those two, that will be some pretty huge points for us. But for now, the main focus is just holding a position, and yeah, we're going to make things as awkward as we can for Max Verstappen. Maybe not what we should be doing in the junior team, but let's be honest, he's got the championship all but wrapped up at the moment anyway. So yeah, we have enough pace where we can continue to fight with Max Verstappen without letting Tsunoda get up the road. So yeah, that is what we're doing at the moment. Verstappen probably getting very frustrated behind us, but it's all we can really do at the moment to try and get the most out of this race. So hopefully this strategy works for us. The alternative is we let him go and hope that he can overtake Ricciardo in the later stages, but that's not a guarantee. So I'd rather put myself in this position and put it within my control of over what happens next. So yeah, that is essentially what we're doing here. But as we continue on, taking a Parabolica at a leisurely pace to try and create a bit of a margin to Tsunoda, and
Yuki is in the pits. Yuki in the pit lane now.
Yeah, slowing right up into pit lane to try and create as much gap to Tsunoda as possible. Very cheeky, I'll admit, but anyway, we still have to double stack, unfortunately, and that's probably going to leave us exposed to getting overtaken in the pits. And yeah, we are. So I was hoping we could come out behind Tsunoda still. We've been jumped by Russell and Verstappen.
Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now.
So yeah, I don't think there's going to be much we can do to defend Yuki from those cars. But anyway, that's just how that's played out. Unfortunately, Alonso has moved on to softs, so that'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think everyone can go to the end, with the exception of those who have switched onto softs. They're working for the moment though, with Alonso making the move around the outside of Ricciardo. So for now that takes a couple of points away from McLaren, and they are all critical to us at the moment.
Verstappen's ahead of you. Okay, gap to the car ahead is 2.5 seconds. They're on fresh mediums. Their tyres are just 1 lap old. Car ahead has some minor front wing damage, but it's currently maintaining its pace. Your last lap time was a 1 minute 48.8, 0.8 seconds.
And Verstappen carrying a bit of front wing damage could slow him down a bit, we'll see. But
P10, you're currently in P10.
no doubt that's a result of our earlier scraps, as we see Lance Stroll under pressure from Alexander Albon, and Albon makes the move down the inside into Parabolica. Stroll trying to hold on, both of these drivers on soft compound tyres as well. Kevin Magnussen just in behind, running the medium compound on the Haas, and Magnussen might be in a good position to capitalise here. Look at the speed out of the Haas as he makes it 3 wide towards turn 1. Kevin Magnussen down the inside of Albon and Stroll, and looks like Stroll's still trying to keep the fight going. Bit of contact as they make their way through. Stroll slots in behind and gets out of that fight. Magnussen comes out on top, so Albon moves 1 up and then 1 down just as quickly. Kevin Magnussen 2 for the price of 1 down at the first chicane. So nice work by the Dane to capitalise there. All of this isn't even for points, but a great battle between those 3 nonetheless. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen makes the move on Tsunoda, and not much Yuki could do about that. So that's a shame for Tsunoda as he loses out there. But hopefully Verstappen might have a chance of catching Ricciardo, but there is a huge air gap to the Aussie in front for Max Verstappen now, as Alonso is actually caught up to the lead, or not the leaders, the podium fight though, with Leclerc and Hamilton. So that could get a little bit tasty. But anyway, we go back on board with myself, and looks like George Russell struggling a little bit to make the move on Tsunoda so far. And maybe there's an opportunity for us here to make the move on Russell just like we did earlier. We're going to go for the big dive down the inside, and George Russell has no choice but to give us the apex, and we're through on George Russell, and we've separated Yuki from the Mercedes driver, and as we run a little bit wide there, we should be okay though. That's going to give us the DRS from Tsunoda, and a very good opportunity to help both of us keep these places. But meanwhile, a bit further up the road, Hamilton makes the move on Leclerc, with Alonso keeping the watching brief for the time being. But he can taste that podium at the moment as we go around the outside of George Russell through turn 1. Bit of a swapper on the exit, but we get the power down eventually, and we still maintain the position ahead of George Russell. Here's the on board with Tsunoda, as we were just able to carry that speed around the outside, and then huge slide on the exit, but we got away with it. But yeah, we are having to defend pretty tactfully here. We've got the DRS from Tsunoda again, always helping us out the slipstream, and that's keeping us ahead of Russell. And I'm sure he is getting very frustrated behind us. We've had our run-ins this season with George Russell, but hopefully we can keep it clean this time as Alonso comes into the pits. Those soft tyres couldn't last, and yeah, it's another set of tyres for Fernando Alonso to get to the end of the race, but he's going to be absolutely rapid from now on, so it'll be interesting to see.
The car behind is dropping back by about 0.3 a lap. Well done.
Anyway, we make the move on Alonso as he's in the pit lane, and it is going to be more soft compound tyres, by the way, for Fernando Alonso, so he's going to be super quick to the end of the race. But the way things stand at the moment is we force Tsunoda into a little bit of a defense, and that's so we can run side by side into turn 1. We back out for turn 2 and slot in behind, but it's getting to the point where I need Tsunoda to do some of the blocking work as well. But yeah, it's getting very tricky, because now it's Fernando Alonso putting the pressure on, and that was a very quickly narrowing gap that he really wanted to stick the nose into there. But Alonso is the one troubling us now, and he has got so much grip. It's is making things extremely difficult that we're defending to the point we can't even keep up with Tsunoda now. And around the outside we go, and Alonso did a slight little jink in the braking zone there, and it sent us off into the grass. And now we have to keep this fight going all the way towards Parabolica, bumping along the straight, getting very feisty with Fernando Alonso, and we'll make the move through Parabolica with the inside line there. But we are fighting as hard as we dare with Fernando Alonso. Here's the onboard looking rearward, and we were committed to the outside. Alonso just moved across ever so slightly, and that was enough to send us scrambling through the Ascari chicane, and Alonso got the better exit in the end. Towards turn 1 though, Alonso gets the move done again. We send him all the way to the inside with the defense there, and now we make the move around the outside and go in very deep to make sure we take that second apex first. And yeah, we are being extremely aggressive here as we run a little bit wide there. Just a momentary lapse as we head through Curva Grande.
No tyre concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving.
But yeah, Sonoda is making a break for it.
Well done. Yuki's in the car ahead, and gap to the car in front is 2.2 seconds. Alonso behind you now. They're on fresh softs. Your pit window's now open. Pit window is open. Okay, we're into the last 10 laps now.
Last 10 laps of the race, and Alonso is not giving this one up. We are playing chicken along the straight here, getting as close as we dare to making contact along the straight, sending it up the inside. Alonso with the switchback, and this is probably getting a little bit silly at this point, and we actually got a pretty rubbish exit there, so Alonso might just have the job done here as we sit in the slipstream towards turn 1. This is going to have to be the dive bomb of the century if we want any chance of holding off Alonso. Now we're going to go for it down the inside, and we just get the car stopped in time. And
Good
that
job. Nice overtake.
was absolutely the dive bomb of the century. I don't know how we got that stopped. Look at the extra speed we carried into the apex, and we got it stopped without contact. Alonso, magnificent awareness to see this coming. The speed we carried in there was ridiculous, but by fractions of a millimeter we kept the car within track limits, and we were able to get the job done. Meanwhile, Lando Norris makes the move on George Russell, who's struggling with a mechanical issue at the moment, so that puts Norris into the points and potentially puts us in a little bit more trouble when it comes to the team's championship battle with McLaren, because even at a best case scenario as things are,
It looks so easy.
you know, if we can hold off Alonso, it's really not going to be much of a gain or any gain. In fact, I think McLaren, as things stand out, score us in this race with how high up the field Ricciardo is. So we need every single point we can, and I'm hoping that Mercedes can sort out whatever issue Russell is struggling with, as we are again getting very close with the side pod of Fernando Alonso there as we run side by side through Curva Grande, squeezing him to the edge there as much as we can. And now around the outside we go into the Del Roger chicane. Alonso leaves us ample room on the exit, and we get back through. So Alonso being very courteous there, but this fight is super aggressive, as Sergio Perez is on for the race lead here. Around the outside of Carlos Sainz he goes, and he has held that margin in. Carlos Sainz did have a buffer, but that has evaporated now. Sainz holds on for the time being, but the fight for the lead is now on, so I don't know where to look at this point. There's also the fight for third between Leclerc and Hamilton, which remains unresolved at this stage. Alonso hounding us as well, and George Russell will be battling pretty hard because he's currently not even in the points. So there is so much to look at in this race. Alonso currently is the one with all the pace, and we are just antagonizing him with no way through, just blocking at every opportunity, carrying the speed around the outside where we can. And even if Alonso gets past us at this point, there's no chance he can go catch Sonoda, and that's part of the reason I'm fighting so hard, is that if I can't get a good result, I want to guarantee that Sonoda can, and still bring in some good points. So even if things go awry for us, all this work I'm doing is not going to go to waste. So here we go then. Lando Norris on us as well. So now we've got even more trouble, as down the inside it goes Fernando Alonso. We'll send it around the outside. We go pretty deep though, but we should be okay to hold on to this one. and we just about keep things going. A little bit off circuit there, but Alonso was super early on the brakes. Here's the onboard with Lando Norris. He sent it around the outside, and the seas almost parted. He really wanted to get down the inside there, but ultimately had to back out of it, and yeah, couldn't get through that little pinch point at the apex. As into turn 1 again, Sergio Perez on Carlos Sainz, the Ferrari driver, trying to hold on to home glory, but Sergio Perez with the pace at the moment. But again, Carlos Sainz holds on, so he is trying to make the dream happen for Ferrari as we go on board with George Russell, and he's back in this fight as Alonso makes the move on Lando Norris. On board with George Russell, making the move on Norris as well, and maybe even Alonso, as they're going to go side by side. Not quite. Alonso just covers off George Russell, and Norris slots in behind. So Lando Norris now back out of the points, and this is good news for us.
Okay, gap ahead is 7.2 seconds.
As things stand now, I think we're even on points with McLaren in this race. I think that is the situation. So this is the minimum. If we can beat Alonso and Russell, and Norris remains outside the points.
They're retiring from the race.
There's Mick Schumacher retires from the race. Not a huge consequence to our race, but it's just a mechanical failure for Mick Schumacher, and that's the leaders going through, and perhaps getting a little bit held up there for both of them. We'll need to have a look at that. Here's the onboard, and Sainz definitely having to jink to the side. Perez having to slow down through the smoke, and that might cost Perez the chance to go for the lead. He's lost seconds in that to Carlos Sainz, so that's a real shame for Perez, but perfect news for Ferrari as we send one down the inside of Fernando Alonso once again. And the more we battle, the more those soft tyres start to die off for Alonso, and the more things equalise. And he's still got all the straight line speed in the world. We can't get back down the inside. We're heading into a yellow flag zone for Schumacher, so that's worked for Alonso there. He's got the job done just at the right moment, but hopefully we can fight this one back very shortly. But meanwhile, the fight for third is still on between Hamilton and Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton now down the inside into turn 1, and looks like the Brit is going to take P3. So Charles Leclerc dropping off the podium as Carlos Sainz desperately tries to cling on to the race lead for Ferrari here at their home race.
The effects of some tyre wear soon, so stay on your toes.
We go back down the inside of Alonso, and all that pace, all that speed that Alonso has, that moment there shows that it is largely down to DRS. We look lightning quick there, as we've now got Russell trying to make the move around the outside. We're going to see if we can hold him off. We should be okay. We've done this dance before, side by side into the Del Roger chicane, give him a little bit of a squeeze, and we'll flow it in nicely around the outside, take the second apex, and we're through on George Russell, throwing the block now towards the first Lesmo. But yeah, we are fighting with everything we've got, and as I was starting to say earlier, if we can finish with Alonso and Russell between myself and Norris therefore being outside of the points, that should be enough for us to match McLaren for points in this race. That is how hard we need to fight to keep this Constructors' Championship fight for fourth going. But anyway, Charles Leclerc makes a move on Lewis Hamilton onto lap 51, so 3 to go for these guys in their fight for the final step of the podium, as we get absolutely done by George Russell and Fernando Alonso into Parabolica. Just a bit early on the brakes there on our part, and those two were able to go flying on through around the outside, but we should be within proximity to re-overtake these two towards turn 1 if we can just go late on the brakes down the inside, and from this beautiful bird's eye view shot we get the move done. Russell parked up on the apex, Alonso, Norris, both of them not able to get the run on the exit, as we look back at the battle now for third position, and it looks like Hamilton is close to Charles Leclerc, and they might switch places again. Leclerc chooses the inside, Hamilton to the outside of turn 1. Side by side they go, Hamilton trying to do the impossible here. It's never worked on the outside of turn 1 to the inside of 2, and once again Leclerc prevails, and he is doing everything he can to make this a double podium for Ferrari. But Hamilton trying to get a Mercedes car onto the podium, but currently it hasn't gone his way. But Alonso getting through on Russell there puts us under pressure once more. But we should be okay to hold him off once again. That was actually one of our easier runs into turn 1, although we did miss the apex of turn 2. I haven't taken a normal line through that sequence for quite a while in this race. But on to the final lap then for Carlos Sainz, the race leader, and he is as free as a bird out in the lead with not too much pressure from behind. Perez wasn't able to close up again after getting held up by Mick Schumacher, so that's a shame for Sergio Perez because he was looking very racy at one stage in the middle of this stint. But Charles Leclerc covers off Hamilton. A lock up there for Leclerc, but he manages to keep it contained, keeps it on the road, and Hamilton has no way through. Leclerc clings on to third position as there's Daniel Ricciardo. And tell you what, Verstappen has hauled in that margin. There was daylight between those two, and now Max Verstappen might be within proximity to do something on the final lap as we continue to defend from Fernando Alonso. And looks like he's got the switch back here through the final corner. He's through, but we are going to be right in the slipstream of the Spaniard, almost pushing him along, maybe even a bit of light contact. Front nose to gearbox there behind Fernando Alonso. We're going to make the move around the outside into turn 1, and we give him the big squeeze to the apex there. We get back through on Fernando Alonso, and this fight continues on. Lando Norris still tucked in behind George Russell, who seems to have his issues resolved. But let's talk about this man. What a performance from Carlos Sainz today. The Spaniard, racing in red, is gonna win the Italian Grand Prix for Ferrari. What a performance by Carlos Sainz, the smoothest of operations. And I think Sergio Perez just ran into the back of him. Here we go, here's the onboard with Sergio Perez, second place for the Mexican. Whack! Straight into the back of Carlos Sainz. Anyway, Charles Leclerc takes P3. Double podium for Ferrari. Awesome result for their home race, to say that they looked like they might have a struggle based on the R&D chart. But the race isn't over, because side by side to the final corner, Max Verstappen down the inside of Daniel Ricciardo at the final corner, and the Red Bull driver prevails and takes P5 at the last possible opportunity, and Daniel Ricciardo will have to settle for 6th. Max Verstappen, a charging performance there, and Daniel Ricciardo misses out on a couple of extra points by a car length. Yuki Tsunoda is the next car in the queue, and it's been an awesome performance by our teammate. This is going to be his best result for the season by a margin for Yuki Tsunoda. It's going to be P7 at the Italian Grand Prix. Awesome race for Yuki today, and he only finishes in the race 2 points behind Daniel Ricciardo, and that means as we come around the final corner to take a P8 ahead of George Russell and Fernando Alonso, rounding out the point scorers.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
We outscore McLaren today by 2 points, moving us 1 ahead in the constructors' standings. That is objective achieved.
They made great use of the clear air today and didn't allow anyone to exploit the slipstream behind them. What a great win here at Monza. What do you think it was today, Ants, that gave them the edge over the competition?
I really feel the track layout combined with the track temperatures we saw today suited their car. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature, and the driver did a great job managing that as well. They just look so comfortable out there. It's like anything, it always looks so easy when it all just clicks.
Looking at the podium, you can see that red suit familiar to fans across the globe. A world-class win for a world-class team. Ferrari, do it again.
What a dream performance for Carlos Sainz. Home glory for Ferrari. It doesn't get any better than that. Second place for Sergio Perez, and P3 for Charles Leclerc, making it a double podium for the team in red.
So let's review the updated driver standings. Well, it wasn't the best weekend for our championship leader, and their advantage at the top has been reduced. Some amazing talent out on the track today, but Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
Often my go-to would be a driver who's managed to pull off an especially impressive feat during the race. However, in this instance, I was more impressed by Max Verstappen's solid, clean driving throughout the event.
Let's move on to the constructors. No change in the top spot then, but with today's points, their hold on that lead is getting weaker. Meanwhile, AlphaTauri's strong weekend allows them to continue their march up the table. Well, what an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
Oh my goodness. That was a ridiculously hard-fought race to gain just 2 points over McLaren. But that's what this season is coming to. We are going to need to keep up this intensity if we want to keep this fight going, because they're just such a well-rounded midfield team. They've got the best midfield car. They've probably got the best midfield drivers. It's a perfect storm in terms of a midfield fight. And yeah, we're up against the odds, but we've just tipped the scales in our favour today. My goodness, that was a sketchy move on Fernando Alonso there. It didn't ultimately work, but that was a very tough race. We fought just so ridiculously hard, and I mean, it paid off, but you know, we risked a lot in that one. That could have gone wrong on more than a few occasions. But yeah, Monza is a circuit where, you know, you can fight super hard, you can get super racy, and you know, we have to. If we let Alonso and Russell and Norris through, we could have been down, 10 points to McLaren, and that's just an amount we can't recover overnight. And we can't afford to give them an inch. So yeah, we fought very hard, but it wasn't without reason. But anyway, what is there to say? Look at Norris just skating through the middle there. I've already kind of done the whole run through the drivers who scored points in this one, so that's kind of why I'm not doing that right now as I usually would. But yeah, in terms of the team's championship, or the drivers' championship first rather, there's not really much to talk about there anymore. Max Verstappen still has a more than 100-point lead in that, and then in terms of the teams, Red Bull are still smashing it there too. So yeah, there's really not too much to discuss in terms of those. The main point in the team's championship is, of course, our battle with McLaren, which we now lead by a single point after that effort. But anyway, here we go then. We'll head back to HQ, and yeah, we'll see if we can get some more upgrades on the car before the next round. Hopefully things go to plan at this end of the weekend. Singapore is up next, I think. And, Singapore's tough.
We need your input here. Not an easy choice, I know.
And we need to choose between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton as our rival. Well, we did a lot of battling with Max Verstappen today. Do we dare? We dare.
Thanks. I appreciate you taking the time to help out.
So that's going to be a pretty tough one. I mean, so was Lewis Hamilton, to be fair. But anyway, we'll see what we can do. Anyway, back to all this. Probably not too much R&D we can do at the moment. We don't have too many resource points at our disposal, so we head through the timeline then, and we'll see if anything comes up. We get our weekly resource points, so let's head back over and see what we can do with them. Hopefully we can get some upgrades on the car. Maybe not before the next round, but in time for I actually don't know what race to look forward to now, to be fair. I pinpointed the Italian Grand Prix from pretty early on in the season as a round that will be very important for us. But now that that's out the way, I don't really know what the next step is, other than just trying to keep plowing through the upgrades. But at the moment, we don't have enough resource points to go for anything at the moment. I'm just sort of checking out what we've got available, I suppose, and what areas of the car we might need to work on. We don't really need anything in the durability department, but all these upgrades that are here are constantly sort of taking up the discounts we get in practice, so I thought I'd grab the very cheap one there to the energy store durability. We had 60% off on that, so I'm hoping by purchasing that upgrade it'll start applying discounts to some more useful ones in practice. I don't know if that'll save us resource points in the long run, probably not, but anyway, that was my sort of thinking with that, and we can afford it anyway pretty easily.
Without issue. They'll be on the car ready for the next race weekend.
We get a chassis upgrade. That's a weight redistribution upgrade to the hydraulics successfully on the car. As we continue through again, we get 2 upgrades successfully on the car, very nicely there. That is the side pod profile upgrade that I was hoping we would have for the Italian Grand Prix. Bit of a drag reduction there on the aero department. And we also get a tyre wear upgrade on the chassis side, that being the roll dampers upgrade. So both of those now successfully on the car. Both of those I think will still be useful in Singapore. Anyway, continuing through the timeline.
Okay, we've had the new parts come through the fabrication process. We'll have them with us for the next Grand Prix.
With our next income of resource points, we're going to purchase a DRS upgrade, our first DRS upgrade actually on the aero side, and that should be on the car in time for the US Grand Prix. We can rush it in time for Japan, but let's be honest, there's only one DRS zone there, so it's not really worth the risk. We get our next successful upgrade on the car, the fuel flow regulator. That's, I believe, is probably a fuel economy upgrade, so that'll be handy as well for Singapore, which is typically a very long race. Might be good to start off with a lighter car there, hopefully with a bit of better fuel economy. But anyway, yeah, that I think is just about going to do it finally for this one. Just a quick review of the components we have installed. Everything looks fine, I think. For now, we're basically just on the home run to the end of the season. So yeah, with that said, I don't think there is too much else left to cover in this one. It's been quite a long one, but yeah, there are the season results. Huge result for Carlos Sainz today. Awesome for him and Ferrari. Yuki's best result of the season so far. And good points for us as a team. But anyway, that is going to do it for this one. So I would say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Please feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. It is always very helpful. And other than that, I will see you in the next one. And goodbye.